Bryceton LeFlore with the Tennis Journal podcast. Today we are interviewing a good friend of mine and monk Rassa Raj. We met at the Bhaktivedanta Manor when I was in training, and we had some really great conversations. So it's really amazing to have him on the Tennis Journal podcast today. So first of all, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what and how you became a monk and what made you come to that decision to become a monk.
Hello. So my name is Rassa Raj, and I am pleasure. It's a pleasure of mine to be here with Bryceton. We met some time ago in London, and yeah, my name is Rassa Raj. That's my spiritual name. I was brought up in London, and did my studies in London. And after some time, I became disgusted with material life after trying a lot of things, experimenting. I was born in a spiritual family where people were quite spiritually inclined. Uh, Yoga, as it's called, Bhagavad Gita. They used to study Bhagavad Gita, and but still, I rejected that. After rejecting that, I came to experiment many things, as I was saying, like eating anything I want, drinking anything I want, being with anyone I want, doing anything I want, smoking anything I want. Putting things into my body, whatever I wanted to do. And I got the understanding that that's not the best. So I decided to try out something called spiritual life. And when I did that, I got sent to America, and I started my training in America, Orlando, Florida. And the decision came because I tried everything materially, and I wanted to see something more in life. And yeah, I think now I'm based in India. uh, I'm doing some training in India, in the center of India. It's very exciting, and it's only increasing um, in happiness and joy, and it's very, very fun. I hope that answers the question.
Oh no, no, that's excellent. And it's a really great inspiration to meet people that are really devoted to spiritual life and trying to have great habits, be disciplined, and your devotion is also very admirable. And that kind of goes into our next question. So as a monk, it's all about your habits. In from my understanding at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, it was almost like your habits create your spiritual practice. And I was wondering your insights about that and what's some advice that you could give everybody out there about building good habits, like waking up early, eating healthy. Because this is a tennis channel, but tennis encompasses a lot of things about life. So a lot of times, a really successful tennis player is that person who's having the right habits and doing the right things on a daily basis.
Yeah, yeah. Your habits create your character, and your character creates your destiny, they say. And your thoughts create your habits. Your thoughts in the beginning, what goes in your mind, how you react throughout the day, that creates certain patterns, some attraction, and that attraction builds certain attraction to some activity, and continuous activity causes a habit to function or form, and then that habit forms, and it develops your character, and then you develop qualities based on your character, and those qualities develop into your destiny, and that's really it. So if you want to change your habit, then you should change the way you react to life first. And you should also remember that there's a destiny which everyone wants. So Bryceton, you have a destiny of, you could say, everyone has a dream. um, you want to do some activity for the world, you want to help the world in a certain way, or you want to be a certain person, or you have a certain objective to um, gain something. That should be your destiny. But then you have to work backwards. Okay, if your destiny is something like that, then how should you react to the things around you to form the correct habits, to make that character, to make those qualities to achieve your destiny? So for a spiritualist, we understand that there is some divinity about life. There's something that connects us all, um, and there's something more to life than enjoying the now, or trying to enjoy the tomorrow and planning in that way. There's more to life than basically gross sense enjoyment. There's more to life than wasting time trying to work hard, and then die all of a sudden without knowing the point of life or what you're supposed to do. So when you come to spirituality, you pick up on a subtle goal. And that goal, if you capture that goal and understand that there's a higher perspective to life, then instantly your thoughts change. So that's when you can really create spiritual practices. And it helps when you're, for example, if you want to create a business, or even sports, if you want to achieve a certain object in life, then you need good friends, you need good business partners, you need good colleagues that also share that same goal. And if you're alone in that, then you can get demotivated, you can become impatient, you become not confident enough that you can achieve that. You can lose your enthusiasm also. So first, to keep that habit, you need good friends, or you need good spiritual partners. For example, if I wake up nicely in the monastery and I train very hard to wake up at 4 o'clock every day, but then one day I just say, okay, I'm going to take a holiday, I'm going to go home, and immediately my routine is destroyed, because when I was waking up for 4 o'clock every day, I was waking up because I was feeling enthusiastic, because I was waking up with many people around me. We had one goal to achieve. We were together in the mission, you could say. When I'm home, I'm relaxed, and I'm feeling it's my time to chill out. And I think I can wake up at 4, but I'm not going to wake up at 4. So immediately when you lose that association, that valuable, that you could say business partners, then you lose the point of the business, where you kind of get sidetracked. So you should stay with like-minded people, help your habits to stay. You can say help you to persevere through the difficulties that can break your habits throughout the day. Many distractions in life. So I hope that really answers the question. Many habits are there. Waking up early is definitely a good one, but there's many more.
So like, let's say from your vantage point, so let's say your habits come down to having a higher goal, okay, and then having proper association. Would that be correct to say?
Yeah,
Or is
you
there
can.
anything more you like to add?
Yeah, breaking a habit is formed by practice. Mother of habit is practice. Practice makes a man perfect, they say. So, but a practice, you can't just have a practice without having a vision in mind. So therefore, goal is necessary. And if you have a goal very strongly in life, then that will affect the way you react to the world every second. So naturally, that goal will help to focus on the reaction that you have in the world today, every second. And then to keep those goals strong, you need association. So I would stick with these two things in the beginning, and then there's more advanced things that we can talk about. The more developed we can, or the more in-depth or more subtle habits you want to develop, then you have to talk about more subtle goals, like cleanliness. How do you keep your habits pure and good? You need a clean mind. You need to be able to focus very well on the goal. So just association is not enough. You need also knowledge. Okay, why is that goal in my life? Why do I want to, you could say, become a billionaire? Okay, what is the point? Okay, if I get a little drunk one day, I may just forget why I want to be a billionaire, because my goal is not so strong. But actually, if I have 100 reasons why I should be a billionaire, then your goal is strong, your knowledge is strong, and you'll be a leader among your friends and associates, because they will feed off your energy. So knowledge is also, you can go deeper. We can also say knowledge is very important to keep your habits consistent, or even make your habits strong. I hope that helps.
Okay, I see. So this is and this is kind of maybe a spin off of this question. So I think one really difficult part of forming habits is sort of you can get uh tired of the habit. And for instance, like let's say we're in the ashram, maybe it's don't get me wrong, it's always hard to wake up at 4, but I think really what makes it difficult is just having to do it over and over again over a long period of time. It just sort of drags you down. Like I found myself at the ashram. I mean, I was definitely into it, but it was just the routine over a long period of time that was wearing me down rather than just like just doing that thing maybe a couple of times. So what keeps you going to keep, keep you motivated in continuing those good habits? Because you need that time and repetition to let that habit sink in.
Yeah, like if you're in the army, you have to you're forced by your teachers and guides in the beginning. They force you with good habits, and they motivate you through you could say yeah, force. They enforce those things. Uh, so discipline either has to come from inner motivation or external motivation. Now in the ashram, in the monastery, you don't have external motivation so much. I mean, to wake up, yeah, everyone's going to look at you, and if you don't wake up, you're going to be the lazy one on the floor waiting. So
Often
in
that
that,
can be enough, that can be enough. The social
sometimes enough
pressure,
social
like
pressures. Sometimes actually, for many, social pressure is enough.
mhm,
At least at the beginning, because some external motivation is needed, some external discipline is needed, some pressure is needed, where it's not based on my internal desire, it's based on the desire of another person, which is stronger than my desire. Then I feed off that desire and I wish to please that person. I wish to, money is the main motivation nowadays, isn't it? So if I don't wake up at 4, I can't make my money in the day. If I don't wake up at this time, I'm scared because I can't fulfill my needs, desires, and concerns of money. So money is a big motivation, but in spiritual life, money isn't the motivation. Motivation is to grow, it's to develop your character, it is to learn, and is also to understand spiritual reality. Now, if you wake up at 4 in the morning, then you have 2 days also, not just one day. People wake up like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe even 1, 2, half the day is gone. But those things come, those internal disciplines come later. First, external disciplines have to come first. So a little force is necessary in the beginning. Some guilt has to maybe be there when you're feeling that I'm the last one waking up. We have in the ashram roster, you mark your attendance in the morning at 4:30 if you're in the ceremony on time. And that roster is enough for some people also. And if it's
mhm.
too much, you haven't woken up enough in 1 week, you've missed 5, you could say morning programs, then your authority will talk to you. That's also external pressure. And after some time, you'll develop internal pressure. That actually answers your question. How can I consistently wake up and I don't like it, but how can I do it? So one is external pressure, later on internal pressure, internal discipline, internal taste will come in. If I, for example, hear a song, the latest hit, I don't know what it is nowadays. If I hear the top chart, the best song now, if I hear it 50 times, I'm going to feel like a little bored after some time. But in the case of spirituality, because it accesses the pleasure of the soul, spirit, accesses the pleasure of the soul, then it's, you could say, an ongoing, endless bliss that you receive. In the beginning, it's difficult because we're not used to it. It's like if you have a disease of jaundice, which means that you can't taste sweet. Everything sweet tastes sour. But the medicine for jaundice is sugar candy. So in the beginning, the sweetest thing tastes sour because you're not used to it.
Mhm.
But after shaking sugar candy, that sour taste goes and your sweet taste comes back. So in the beginning, spiritual life could be a little rough because it's not what we've done for a long time. But after
Mhm.
some time, I understand that yes, this is giving me more pleasure than anything I've ever done in my entire life. And then you can develop internal taste, and that internal taste will develop your internal uh, pressure, discipline, your internal desire to wake up, even without external pressure.
Okay, so the external pressure leads to that internal character,
Yes, but
over some
yeah,
time.
but if you love what you do, also, like if you love when you wake up at 4 in the morning, what do we do? We dance, we sing, we
Mhm.
have fun, So if who doesn't like to do that? So you should also love what you do. If you're in the army, you're not going to love it. So you need money as a motivation. But in spiritual life, you don't get money. So you should love what you do. Spiritual life is full of joy, enjoyment. So
Mm,
and it's easier
yeah,
to easier to wake up because it's fun.
Yeah, sometimes you know, people can be focused on that like that short term pleasure instead of that long term joy, you know. So like and I think it can be related to spiritual life, but with many things, if you really have that pure joy for what you're doing, then then that's what you love. So it's easy to wake up, you know. Like let's say if you really I don't know if I'm quoting this, I'm making this quote perfectly right, but you know, if you're like if you don't have anything to wake up for, then you're not going to wake up, you know. That you know, it's
Yeah,
like
there's a
it's about
famous quote.
finding something that's worth it, you know, to
There's a
wake up
famous
for.
quote just like that. It said, if you don't have any reason, or what's it? If you don't have any reason to wake up, then you have no reason to live. And if you have
Mm,
no reason to live, then I forgot about that. There was a nice quote actually. It does make sense actually. If there's
mm,
if there's if there's no reason, uh, if there's no passion in your life, then what drives you? Is you're basically dead anyway. Nothing
mm-hmm,
driving you.
mm-hmm. So yeah, so perhaps it comes to you know cultivating, you know, the in the bigger picture, like cultivating that discipline. It comes to finding what internally is really worth it for worth it to wake up for, to fight for, to train yourself for. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
the external environment will kind of build in you that inner character. If
yes,
I can,
yes.
yeah, if we could explain it. But
Yeah,
huh.
and if you have
Okay,
friends, it helps even more if you have friends who
mhm,
are waiting or doing
exactly,
the best.
exactly. Okay, so yeah, let's I just want to kind of switch it up a little bit. So so as one thing I really wanted to go into you with is about the mental side of sports and specifically tennis. And so I don't know if you played tennis before, and it's kind of you know, most people that don't play tennis, they kind of don't understand like how mental of a game it is. It kind of looks like people are just like hitting the ball back and forth, but it requires a lot of very, very, very intent focus. Like, I mean, because it's extremely detailed in that, like, let's say you miss the ball by a millisecond, that could determine if the ball is like flying out of the court or hitting your perfect spot. So it can be very, very frustrating in that like you could just be making very minute mistakes and then everything's just going wrong. You know, it's like it and then also there's just a lot of other mental difficulties because you're on your own. You have no team that you can depend on. There's generally no coach that you can depend on. Like every mistake you make is like you're the only one. You made the mistake. It's not like you know it was you, and it's not really. Also, another thing that's really mentally difficult with tennis is that it's it's not like other sports in that like for instance like let's say I shoot a basketball and I miss all the goals I don't take. In tennis, it's almost more about errors. So it's almost like you're in like a mistake center, you know, like so it's about when you make an error, you're punished, and it's all on you. So it can be very very mentally difficult, and actually that's why I think tennis is a really really good game to help students, children, even adults cultivate their mental side and become better people because it is in a lot of ways a very mental game. So I was just wondering what if you could give some advice about how students could master the mental side of tennis and how they should approach their inner and spiritual development.
Well, one thing I can say for sure is that spiritual power, it helps you access material power or strength. Material consciousness follows spiritual consciousness. If you're more spiritually active, more conscious, more aware, more memory, more intelligence, more determination, then naturally, your game will be better. Um, One thing I did have some experience playing
Oh,
tennis
okay,
from
okay.
young age. Young age, I used to have a park opposite my house,
Mm-hmm,
and I played maybe 30, 40 games maximum in my whole life, maximum.
mm-hmm,
And I used to love the game, and my last game was my favorite one because it kind of links to the question that you're asking. And after that game, I became a monk.
Really?
Yeah.
After the game, you became a monk?
After the game, like that was that was like the last game before I became a monk, basically.
Oh, okay, okay.
Then the next day.
Actually, I was actually at a tennis tournament one day, and there is I was just um I had been working at the Delray Beach Tennis Center, and I was just kind of helping out around the tournament. And then this guy, I just kind of took a break from work, and I was watching the match. And then this guy said, "Tennis will drive you crazy." I know this guy that he lost a tennis match and became a monk. So, so I just thought I'd add that, but just continue.
That sounds about right. No,
No, but these
no.
guys were going crazy. I mean, I don't know if you've been around competitive tennis, but these guys, I mean, it's dry. You see people smashing rackets. You just seeing people screaming, losing it. It's just I don't know. I mean, I know, and it's always a mental game with every sport, but I think
Yeah.
it's a little even more difficult with tennis, or like it just it brings people to their worst. And I've seen it. You know.
Yeah, actually, character is tested in your most difficult times. And when people see that their character is a failure in the most difficult time, then they lose all the confidence that they've ever, hucked up in their life just to come to that moment to realize they're an absolute failure. And
Mm,
it can destroy a person, but then they have to obviously think there's a higher game than this. And that's probably that person that you said, he became a monk. I guess is because he understood that if he became a monk, he can control his senses, or there's a bigger picture in life. But I became a monk after that because I realized that there's some power that I received while playing tennis, you could say. I wasn't
mm,
frustrated in my last game. Actually, I won every hit, every point in that game. I won, and then I realized there's something bigger in life that I'm not able to access. There's something in tennis which is helping me realize that the mental game is a start of a huge journey in spiritual life. Because what I did actually, and I used to take little drugs as well at the time, but I used to be quite thoughtful at that time. And the last game I played, I decided that because I was actually suffering from anxiety at the time, I was suffering from anxiety and stress and whatnot, and the future was not what to do in the future. So I had this calm, I had this, you could say this pressure on myself to calm myself down, just to be focused in life. But what I did instead, I used that word as a mantra or like an affirmation. And I constantly repeated that affirmation every day. And then I played tennis and I was like, why don't I repeat this affirmation during tennis? So I was in my mind, I was repeating an affirmation, be calm, calm, calm. And what happened? I started hitting the balls exactly where I wanted to hit the balls. I started reacting faster, and the umpire who was with us, they noticed, and they also noticed the opponent's mentality change this game versus all my other games. They said, uh, "Your whatever you're doing now is scaring your opponent." So
mm,
by having this affirmation, I don't know why the umpire said it, but I was scaring my other opponent because of my confidence. I was so confident. I was so aligned mentally. My body follows the mind. Body is actually like you could say five horses. Five horses are eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and touch. And the mind is actually these reins that are connected to these horses. And who's pulling the reins is the intelligence. So the intelligence guides the reins, and the reins pull the horses. Now the horses don't act by themselves; they are guided by the intelligence, which controls the mind. But if you have a weak driver, if your reins are not strong enough, if they're not the right material, your horses will go wild. So it's not about the external game when it comes to anything in life, especially tennis. If it's sports, it doesn't matter. Your internal game must be strong. That's what I found out that day. And I found out that there's a higher power in life. And I wanted to access that because I wasn't just happy with one game of tennis when I could really learn so much more about life. Uh, so I hope that helps in that respect, that actually the game starts inside. It's the intelligence that must become strong. And if you have a strong intelligence, your mind will play the game. It's a mental game. It's not a physical game when it comes to tennis. If your mind is fixed, your body will naturally follow the mind. There's a story. He's a great archer. His name is Arjun. He was the best archer in the entire creation, and he was the best archer because whatever he wanted to shoot, he just accurately shot it at always. But he never thought about his arms and where his arms are going and how far. All he did was look at his target, just his target and nothing else. And every time he shot his arrow, it was perfect because his eyes, his mind was completely focused on that point. And if your mind is completely focused on the point, the body will naturally act. The body is actually the servant of the mind. Whatever the mind says, thinking, feeling, willing, the body has to do. If I say I need to go to the bathroom, I need to take, the thinking starts here, the willing, the feeling starts here. I just saw a donut. The thinking starts, oh, let me go. And then the legs start moving already. The belly starts creating the acid. The saliva starts moving in the mouth. The hands help the body get up. The body is helping the mind fulfill the desire. So that means the game starts mentally and physically. The physical just helps the mind. I hope that answers the question, or if I answered it a little bit differently.
Yes, yeah, no, and I think that's a really, really powerful thing. Be calm. You know, I think when I play tennis, I might tell myself like just be calm, be calm, be calm. And I actually think that's very similar to one thing that I do when I coach, and one thing that I think it's, among people that understand the mental side of tennis, it's like maybe a common practice. But so when I let's say I'm teaching a lesson, I would tell the student, drop hit, okay, or excuse me, like I would I would say I would drop the ball, and then when it drops, you would say drop, and then when you hit it, you say hit. Okay. So or the student would drop the ball in front of them, and then when they dropped it, they would drop it, and they would say drop, and then hit. So it's almost like it helps them forget about hitting the ball, and then they can just focus on the drop and the actual hit, and then it helps them sort of just focus on the task at hand, if you understand what I mean. But and I think yeah, like telling yourself those mantras, and to help yourself just stay relaxed and be calm is a really, really powerful thing to do in order to kind of like master that mental side. So and we know it's a mental game, but how do you improve that, your mental faculties? Like, what are some specific steps and things that you can do, or viewpoints you should have to improve that mental game?
Oh, that's a nice question. Yeah, and thank you for your encouragement also. The mind is compared to the reins. So the reins need to be strong, right?
Hmm.
The reins need to be in a good shape. They need to be um, controlled also by the intelligence nicely. If the
Hmm.
mind isn't controlled by the intelligence, then the reins won't, you could say, listen to the driver. Then, so the intelligence needs to be sharp for your mind to be sharp. But what is intelligence? Intelligence means discriminating between your game inside and your game outside of tennis. So your game outside of tennis will determine how you play your tennis game also. For example, you do meditation, and the better you do that meditation for 50 minutes, the day after that meditation, your whole day will follow in good vibes. But if your day is then, you could say, disturbed by fights, arguments, quarrels, hypocrisy, difficult negative dealings, that will affect your meditation the next day. So
Hmm.
how you play the game outside of tennis will affect your game inside of tennis. So you have to be regulated, you have to be intelligent in the real world, also in the outside world, outside the game of tennis. Who you are as a person will affect how you are as a game player. So the better person you are, the better intelligence you have, the more regulated you are as a person, the more intellectual you are as a person, the game will be on your side, you could say. So intelligence comes from the aspect of understanding what is right and wrong. So your habits need to be good outside of the game. You need to be regulated in your eating. You need to be regulated in your sleeping. You need to be regulated in your, you could say, how much work you do, how much practice you do as your game. You can also be regulated in your, you could say, your material duties, your job, your relationships, your life. Regulation is needed, consistency is needed. So that doesn't take part of your mental game away. If you're distracted in for example, you're playing a game, you're thinking about your girlfriend, or you're thinking about your job, or you're thinking about my stomach isn't right. So many things can distract you in your game because you're not regulated. You haven't fixed your consistent. You could say your life isn't consistently balanced. Then those things will affect your game because that will be a distraction in your game. So how you live outside of tennis will affect how you play inside of tennis. This is what Bhagavad Gita is all describing: how to control the mind. Krishna tells Arjun, control your mind. Arjun says, I can control the wind, but I can't control my mind. Arjun is such a powerful archer. He can control the wind, but he can't control his mind. He's saying that for our benefit. So then Krishna says how to control the mind. You practice and you're detached. Then Krishna says you have to regulate yourself. He says, he who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pangs or pains by practicing yoga. So many sports people, they have good eating and they also practice yoga because yoga actually helps the mind to stay stable. And after that, or before that, this is very important for the real game of life. Krishna says to Arjun, one should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. But the more important part, thus with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. So people are like, well, what is Krishna saying? Be unagitated, be free from fear, be free from sex. Actually, yes, big sports players stay celibate for large periods of time so they can increase their inner game. They can increase their, you could say, their mental and intellectual agility. Because when you lose that semen, bro, you're going to be a sloth. You know how a sloth looks, on the side of the tree, they're just hanging upside down. When you lose your semen, that's what happens actually. So actually, to keep your semen or to regulate how you allow that semen to, go out, that will affect your game. That's actually the most important part. This celibacy actually will increase your memory, intelligence, and determination in life, which is needed for a good. So many athletes, they don't have sex 2, 3 days, weeks, months, even before their game, because that will affect their game. So these are some tips on how we can stay intelligent outside of our game to improve our mental stability as being a good driver. A car, for example, when we're playing a game, we're just driving. And the better driver he is, the better consciousness the driver has, he will be able to control the wheel, the gears, the clutch, everything. But the consciousness of the driver is not good, then the car will listen to him only. So the car is the body, the driver is the intelligence, you could say. So we really have to have the inner game nicely, and that's where spiritual life comes in. Meditation, tips on yoga, tips on discipline, and why. All these things are very necessary to have your inner game very, very strong. So I hope that helps. Bhagavad Gita,
Excellent,
very.
excellent. And yeah, there's a couple of things I want to touch on with like in regards to what you said, but I think no, everybody's a bit too afraid to talk about semen retention when it comes to like athletic performance. So that I think that's really cool that you brought that up, and you can, yeah, I think you have more energy and more vigor and almost like more focus if you can you know you practice some semen retention. I think there was a boxer that would go, he would like stay away from his wife for a specific amount of time before he was going to fight, because I mean, you kind of, if you're, around a woman, or you're having sex or you ejaculate, you kind of become a bit soft. It wouldn't be that wouldn't be the ideal situation if you were gonna like go into war, like because you're just a bit I don't know, it's a bit soft or a bit like unfocused or it takes your energy down a bit, so to speak. So yeah, no, I appreciate you touching on that, but I think it probably has something to do with it. And but also I would like to understand what exactly do you mean by regulation? So is that like having a very specific like schedule, or is that like regulation? I think the definition of regulation is related to mm, like having like not being regulated, like not taking too much, or having a good understanding of what you're taking and not taking, or could you just go in more into detail about what you mean by regulation and how someone can regulate their life?
Yeah, yeah, nice. Yeah. Regulation means two things. Regulation means balance, and regulation means time constraint. So do things at the same time and balance, not eating too much, not sleeping too much, not eating too much or eating too little, you know.
Uh-huh.
Keeping that consistent throughout a long period of time will create something called regulation. And schedule is very important in this. And every monk should have, and every person should have a schedule also. It helps regulate the mind. Regulation is very important for
Okay.
the mind.
And I I wonder too, and I 100% agree, 100% agree. Uh I'm just wondering, maybe let's say you were um let's say there is some changes in your schedule. Maybe you have a schedule like where you have to travel a lot. Maybe you have competitions here, and I wonder how it's That's one thing I always wondered about professional tennis players, because this is a sport where you'd be traveling all over the world, literally. Like you have like a global schedule. Like maybe they could be in playing a tournament in England, and then in 2 weeks they'll have to go to the United States, and then they could be all the way in Asia in all between the next month. So like let's say you're having a schedule where you travel a lot, or maybe it's just it's like unexpected, then how would you bring regulation into your life? Because I mean,
Yeah,
you're like, for instance, you were in England and then you went to India, and then I wonder, I'm sure there was some kind of like, you know, it's just a toss up. Now things are a bit different. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's a very good question. Also, how to keep regulated in irregular environment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. See, one thing is that practice is definitely needed, and sometimes what happens in the sports world is before competition, there's a lot of practice. Means I will keep regulated for two. There's two answers to this question really. I'll keep regulated for like 3, 4, 5 years. Practice, practice, practice. Regulate, regulate, regulate. So my body is accustomed to make good habits, and then I use all that good uh, energy that I've just accumulated, and I exert my force in competitions when sometimes I won't be regulated, but my mind will be steady because of how much I've been regulated. That's called, you could say, stored up uh, energy, stored up determination, stored up balance.
Mm,
You could have a bank account. The second part of the question, the second part of an answer I would say is that in any situation, if you're determined enough, you can stay regulated. Regulated just means that in any case, you have to eat and you have to sleep. If you're determined, actually, if you have control over your mind, and if you're very intelligent, and if your game is your life, then you can manage anything. And in any environment, you will sleep. If you need to sleep at 9 o'clock and 9 p.m. and you go from, you're normally, if you're in one country, you'd be sleeping at 9 p.m. You just went on a flight and now it's 9 p.m. in another country. That means even if you're not tired, go to bed. And your body, if it's regulated after so much practice, it will be tired. Even if it's like a jet lag flight, okay, or like opposite way jet lag. Sometimes it's very difficult to know which jet lag is going to be helpful and not helpful against the sun or with the sun. But the point is that your body should be regulated with practice, so that when it comes to these competition times, your body understands this is the time to sleep, this is the time to eat, this is how much to eat, this is how much to sleep. and you shouldn't go above that or below that, because what will happen is you'll create you could say an area where you're relaxed with yourself. But if your game is your life, you can't be relaxed in any stage of your game. You have a recreation space in that. In your day, you have a place to do what you want to do. That's your time to be lazy or use your time to do what you want to do. The rest you shouldn't, you could say, minimize or avoid. Everything should be regulated, but that takes practice, a lot of practice. And detachment. Krishna says, if you want to be regulated or if you want to control the mind, Krishna says, detachment and practice. Detachment, why? Because a lot of things are going to come in the way to stop that regulation. You have to be detached to those things. Okay, this person wants to talk to me. This person wants to come in this environment. There's this meeting held up. This. No, be detached. This is not my time to do this time. To do this certain activity, my regulation comes first, right? And if something happens out of an emergency, fine. I'm detached also from my regulation. For an immediate emergency meeting, I'll be detached to my regulation for a higher cause and then bring my regulation back. So this practice and detachment is very, very important.
So it's like you just have to think about the higher goal and be detached from the lower goal, so to speak.
Time, place, circumstance. You have to see what's right.
Yes, that's an excellent answer. And I actually coach a lot of young people, and I usually feel kind of it might be inappropriate to talk about this, but I wonder, so as a monk, what would you say, to help people do semen retention? Like, because yeah, I mean I think it's really, really difficult to do it, but it's also really, really important. You know what I'm saying?
If you don't have
So,
knowledge, that's the first thing. People should understand why they should do it. Firstly, knowledge should be first. Like if you don't understand why to eat healthy, you won't eat healthy because you have no knowledge, because you're in ignorance of the facts about healthy and diet control that will help you. You see, also there's one there's in the Bhagavad Gita. It's called Shreya and Prayer. Shreya means I do what I want to do now because I want to enjoy now. But prayer, no, I think it's the opposite way around. Prayer means do what I want to do now because I want to enjoy the moment. Like, a kid was put into a room with a Haribo, and the teacher said, if you have the Haribo, that's great. But if you leave the Haribo, I'll give you a whole packet after 5-10 minutes. So the kids, you have to understand prayer and Shreya. I'm going to enjoy that Haribo now, or I'll wait so my enjoyment can be later. So that's what celibacy is. You wait you stop your initial 5-second peak enjoyment when you ejaculate just for a higher game, a higher cause. And if you attach yourself to that higher cause, you'll feel like, it's not such a big deal. But then you have to know what semen retention is, why to do semen retention, what happens if you lose your semen too often, what are the consequences. So knowledge definitely helps. And then a teacher is really needed. A teacher is there to guide, because there's going to be a lot of downfalls or pitfalls for that person. Pornography is so much big these days. Media, you could say, so many bad people, bad friends. You could say, so many things to distract us. But the point is that a teacher is needed and knowledge is needed. That's why the Bhagavad Gita says, Tad vidhi pranipatena. They go and approach a teacher if you want success in life. Everything you need a teacher. For materials things, you need a teacher, and for spiritual, really, semen retention is more of a spiritual game than a material game. It really accesses spiritual power. The power, because semen carries that which creates life, spirit, soul. So if you semen retention is basically the start of spiritual life. So knowledge is needed, and a teacher is really needed to help guide that student in the right direction.
And the last topic I wanted to touch about, like how would you improve your mental game faculties is so how long would you recommend someone meditating, or like, and how would you recommend meditating? Of course, we have chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Would you recommend doing that, or but I guess you are like a Hare Krishna monk, so, but like how would someone approach that? Would you say 15 minutes, 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes. You know, it's just dependent on what they want to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Meditation is a core value that people need in their life, at least to detach. Meditation helps one become detached. It helps the mind to become controlled. Uh, there's many different types of meditations that are there. But the most, and it's proven these days because the mind is so unsteady and turbulent, as Arjuna stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says actually, the highest meditation is to meditate on mantra, on sound, vibration, to keep divinity within your mind, to keep a divine situation within your heart. That's real meditation because that meditation lasts. If I do breath meditation, that may not just last. It may make me a little calm. But we want eternal. We want real benefit. We want real results. So proved is japa meditation. Krishna says japa asmi. I am japa. I am the power of sound. Uh, so meditation that we practice as a Hare Krishna monk is practice meditation on sound vibration, because when you hear the sound vibration, then your mind naturally has to focus on the sound. Once your mind focuses on the sound, there's nothing else that can really take over the mind. But if you try and make the mind still, then something will always come in. It's very
Mm-hmm.
difficult to be nothing. We're someone. We have desires. Sorry, no, and that's fine. And so in the beginning, we can start by meditating at least 5-10 minutes in the day, and we can see the result of that meditation. And we should always try and increase, I'd say, a good standard amount of meditation. If you're really wanting to push your game to the highest limits, I'd wake up early. And the goal is wake up early and do your meditation in the morning. 1 hour or 2 hours meditation is great. And the whole day will play out exactly without any effort. No stress, no fear. Fear is a big cause of failure, actually. I fear I won't hit that ball. And that fear actually causes another thought to enter and distract my mind. And then I act based on fear. I don't act based on intelligence or confidence. So actually, fear is a distraction, even in the game of tennis. We shouldn't be scared. We shouldn't have that fear. So that meditation will really help us. But in the beginning, we can try a little, half an hour, 10 minutes. You can't meditate the whole day. We had so many things to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wonder about also telling yourself like be calm, be calm. Does that have some because that's sound too, and you're focused on like being calm, or is that something different than like the mantra meditation?
Yeah, it's a good question. In the beginning, that was actually a thought experiment. Like when I played that last game of tennis, I was actually meditating on the word calm without having a thought that I'll play tennis while saying this mantra. I just had an experiment. Okay, let me use the same mantra while I'm playing the game. But actually, there may be several other mantras that may be helpful because what we're doing when we're playing tennis, we have to be a good driver. We have five horses that we have to control. We have to have very strong reins. And so, if the driver is calm, that's good, but that's not the only qualification a driver must have on a battlefield. So Arjun's on the battlefield. He's got 5 horses. He has to be not just calm and composed. He doesn't just want to be sober. He has to be aware. Uh, he
Mm-hmm.
has to he has to follow instructions. Uh, he has to so many qualities. Um, he has to be patient like that. He has to be enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
He has to have intelligence, is obviously very important. But calm, the point is that calm isn't the only qualification or of the driver on the battlefield. Just to be calm is not enough. It does help because if the driver is very calm, he is composed and he can think straight. If he's not calm, where does the thinking straight come in? So calm is a very good qualification, but it's not the only qualification of the driver that we need on the battle or the game.
Yeah, maybe the affirmations about many things like determined, or maybe the affirmation you need in the moment. Actually, when I was in Wimbledon and I think her name was Sabatini. I'm not exactly, I don't exactly remember, but this was in the qualifying matches. So I was really really close to her, and I saw like all of her mannerisms, and she was about to lose this match. In fact, I have no idea how she did lose this match, but I would notice what she would do is she would hit herself like on the leg, and then just start smiling, like, and it almost like seemed like a bit forced, you know, like it just seemed strange, almost like why is she smiling? But she just hit herself and then smiles. Like I think that's like because you know she smiles and then that's putting her in a positive state, and then she's loose and relaxed. And I think that's why she got out of that match, because she was just you know kept herself in a good state of mind.
Yeah, you're a winner if you can smile at death.
Yeah, very very true, very very true. The next thing is so you did play a little bit of tennis, but maybe you weren't like aware of what happens to a lot of players, and like a lot of players maybe they've been practicing really really well, but then when it comes to playing in a match or a really really high pressure situation, the pressure gets to them, and then they sort of play a lot lower than their actual potential. Like I think it's called maybe choking. So let's say when they're in a difficult situation, maybe their mind or emotions make them play worse than they actually could have otherwise, instead of
Yeah.
maybe playing better than what they could have. So I was wondering, based on the Bhagavad Gita, what are some tips or advice about how someone could approach a high pressure situation in tennis or sports, and how they could overcome that situation?
Yeah, so you're talking about when people are going through a very much difficult situation where it's on the verge of failure, or you could say defeat of the opponent, and there's heightened levels of, you could say, emotions. Intolerance is going to be there. Confidence will be broken. Fear will come also. Fear will be the main thing. Fear will be the main thing. That's where your intelligence has to be very, very strong. Uh, See, the game is very, very important to understand that it's one game. So when you're detached of the game, this is not just about the game of tennis, but it's the game of life. The answer comes into both. So if you're detached from your daily results of life, if you say that I'm going to just play the game and the result is not based on my, you could say the result is not, um, I won't enjoy the result or I won't suffer the result, because it's not always up to me to win the game. It's based on time, place, circumstance, based on sometimes luck, sometimes people say destiny. So being detached from your game will also help you win the game. You have to understand that one. It's very difficult to understand because people have not heard this concept before of such detachment, where you're actually feeling I'm not the one who's supposed to enjoy this game, or I'm not supposed to feel the one who's suffering if I do lose the game. If I lose the game, no problem. No problem. That's how the mind of the player should be. If I lose the game, no problem. For a successful person, he must be defeated 1,000 times. There was that. There's so much failure before real success happens. So we should be detached from the game. And in that high pressure situation, we should feel, as I said earlier, if you can smile at the face of death, you're successful. So death also means humiliation and defeat. So that woman, I forgot her name, she was hitting herself and smiling. That's exactly what we have to do in that situation. We have to see there is a bigger picture, and uh, that pressure is not, it's not for me. It's not on me, because this is not one war. This is many battles, and the war is later. It's a big war, but this is just a small battle. If it's the final game, right, and there's a lot of pressure, then your motive, your intelligence has to be very very strong. And that's where Krishna comes in the Bhagavad Gita, and he says, Kama esha, Krodha esha, Rajaguna Sumatavaha. He says lust is the greatest. He says lust is the greatest enemy of this world. Right? Lust is the greatest enemy. So that means at the time of the highest pressure, we have to remember the goal, the motive. We have to remember that yes, I want to win, and that winning has to be our motive. All those instructions that our coach and teachers have told us, that should come at that moment. And detachment also has to be there. But you should not in any higher situation of danger, your character is tested more. So when people are in a difficult situation, they become crazy. So don't become crazy means that you don't start the game in a crazy way. That means before the final game starts, your mind and intelligence must be fixed. What is the goal and how I should play this game? And if I lose, what's my game plan? Because failure is a part of success. Failure is part of life. It shouldn't choke you up. If you want to become a monk after your final game because you failed, I will support you. But it doesn't. You don't give up your life just because you failed in the final. Next time you go to the final, you may just win. That failure may just help you. So you have to see the bigger picture of life. And that bigger picture may just help you have the detachment to have the calmness. Now imagine you're on a battlefield. It's an intense situation. But in the most intense situation, your skills have to be utilized. Your skills have to be utilized, and all your training has to come in there. So it's very difficult. But it's not the end. We have to be detached from the result. Main point is we have to be detached from the result. We have to try our best and let Providence do the rest.
Interesting. Yeah, that's all really. I think that's amazing advice. And yeah, and I especially think if you can focus on the bigger picture, then I think you can kind of relax into the situation because it's we always gain from everything that happens in life. A failure and a success. Maybe in the success, great, but in the failure, it's still a learning experience. Just because you lost a game, it's not the end. It's just a new lesson, and everything's a new lesson. There was one thing in one video that I made. It was about the inner game of tennis, and it talked about when you win and when you lose, try to be unaffected by both outcomes. Because that's kind of when you're starting to see the bigger picture. Because I think in one way there's folly from being so happy in your victory. you wait a little bit of time and then you're gonna lose a match too. So just give anybody some time. Even Novak Djokovic, he's the best in the world, but give him some time. He's gonna lose a match for some reason. He might even get injured. And when you lose a match too, in one sense you could say it's horrible, but in another sense you could say it's great because now you know what you need to improve on. So I mean I think especially if you could see that bigger picture and that you know that you're not the enjoyer. This is not for you. You're not. If you can detach from the ego and needing to accomplish this or needing to have this fulfillment, and you can just be driven by your inner goals of growth or whatever you want to accomplish inside, then you know just that little result becomes a lot smaller, and then it's just easier to put things into their proper place. You know what I mean?
It's very intelligent what you're saying. You
Yeah,
had monk.
yeah.
You can tell you've had monk training before.
Yes, certainly. Yeah. I think we had a couple more questions to go with, but I was actually thinking maybe this could be a really good stopping point. So, like, as far as like maybe achieving big goals or handling yourself under pressure, things like that. Do you have any? Maybe if you could share like um one gem from the Bhagavad Gita from all your experiences as a monk in India, all these things. If you could maybe share like the biggest or best piece of advice that you've received or that you could give. I wonder maybe if you could, maybe we could end things like that.
So that the question, just to recatch the question, please repeat.
What do you think could be like that one thing that could change an athlete's life from that you've learned, that you've seen or learned from your experiences as a monk?
Yeah, athlete plays the game. Plays the game means different athletes have different games.
Mm-hmm.
But what I a difficult question, but the solid answer is that life is also a game. When you come to spirituality, you learn that life is also a game, and there's a way to play it correctly. And there's loss, there's defeat, there's ups and downs, there's good and bad, there's right action, there's wrong action, there's there's consequences to those right actions, there's consequences to those wrong actions. There's a higher goal in life than winning also. That higher goal, self-actualization is the higher goal. To realize why you're playing the game in the first place, what the game is, to understand the real value of life. The highest kind of knowledge that, or secret, or kind of jewel I could share is that the game isn't over with the final. The game continues lifelong. And the real game is the game of life. And the better you play the game of life, the better all your little games will be. If your inner game is strong, your external game is strong. But if you try and conquer the full game, then all the mini games are of no use to you. You've conquered Minecraft, you conquered Dungeons and Dragons, you've conquered all these. You finish the game. So when the story comes up and says, "Oh, you have all these mini games to do," I've completed the game. What's the use of going back and doing all these little things? And the other aspect of this is that if you conquer your inner game, you've conquered the outer game completely. If you conquered your inner self, you've conquered your outer, you've conquered the world, you conquered the world. The world starts from within your heart and within your mind. And that's the thing to conquer first. That would be my answer.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you know, I think, and that kind of makes me wonder about choking too, or like not responding well under pressure. If you're really, if you're really choking under pressure, you might not be seeing tennis as what it is. It's a game, you know, like you're thinking of all these things that are going wrong and it's going into your head, and then you're just like, can't even just do the right thing that you have to do to win, because you're thinking it's more than just a game. And that relates to the bigger picture so profoundly, you know, like there's, especially when you go to competitive tennis, there's people that think like tennis is is just like more than a game. It's a game. You love it, you enjoy it, but you don't put, you know, make it more than what it is. Maybe you commit to it, but it's, you got to put what belongs where it belongs. You know, the ultimate goal is your inner and personal development, not just a game. And you know, if you can conquer your inner world, then everything else is gonna follow naturally. So yeah, I think that's it. And also, we're gonna run out of time on Zoom. So thank you so much. This has been Rassa Raj and Bryceton LeFlore. Um, Great friend. I'm really happy we could do this podcast together, and I think it was very deep and profound. Everybody out there, like, comment, subscribe, and as always, great luck out there in the tennis court. And thanks again, Rassa Raj.
Thank you, Bryce. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.